Welcome to Unity Inspired Living. Our community began in 1989 as a small worldwide Unity book study group, and we've continued the momentum as an ever-evolving spiritual community. Each Sunday, you will find dynamic thought leaders delivering inspiring messages and talented musicians sharing sound healing through their melody. Here, we embrace ancient spiritual traditions, universal truths, and emerging wisdom. Let's check out this Sunday message. We're so grateful you've joined us.
It's been pretty good so far this morning. I feel like I'm in church. As John was saying, we're here to bring the light. If we don't, who will? It's upon us. We're not here to receive it. We're here to give it. As you give, and in the way that you give, and it's the quality in which you give, that is what returns. Have you noticed? When I'm having a grumpy day, grumpiness returns to me. You get what I'm saying. Martin Luther King, he said, as he's passing somebody on the street, and you ask yourself, if I don't stop, what's going to happen to that person? As opposed to, if I do stop, what will happen to me? It's a simple little nuance there. When we look at somebody that's in need, somebody that's in the darkness, well, what's going to happen to me? And of course, we think that there could be danger. But what's going to happen to them? That's a wider perspective. And then those are the opportunities when we can show up and be who we are, our radiant self. But we don't tend to come to that realization until we're challenged, until there's challenging times. We don't learn necessarily on our sunshiny days, our Disneyland days, when things are in the Magic Kingdom and everything's going our way. As Eli Tomac said, we don't win championships. He's my favorite motorcycle racer. And you don't win championships on your good days, when you get the good start, when you're at the head of the pack. No, you win the championships when you crash in the first corner and you fight your way back from last place to 8th place, because every point counts. And you discover how good you are. And when you look at the records, Eli, in this last race, set the fastest lap times coming through the pack. You discover your confidence, you discover your ability, your fabulousness on your tough days. So why do we shy away from our tough days, our days of darkness? That's the question. Because when the dark times come, when somebody is elected that is totally unqualified to the highest office in the land, it's somebody that doesn't know kindness and goodness. These are dark times, and it's our responsibility to counter that. And we can fight it, or we can bring something better to the table. And that's what we're being asked to in these times, is to bring something better, to find that place within us that perhaps we've forgotten or that we know, but it's not as easily touchable when it's dark. So what happens in the darkness? And darkness has gotten a really bad name. We throw all of our demons into the darkness. It's like, oh, it's spooky, it's scary. And yeah, it is. Why? Why is it so spooky and scary? We're programmed for danger. That's our survival instinct. And when there's danger around and when you can't see clearly, when you feel like you're out of control, you snap into survival mode. That's the way we're designed. I get it. Me too. But is that our best response all of the time? Is there a balance? Can we take a look? Is there truly danger here right before us? Or is it my imagination that's causing the darkness or scaring me? Most of the time, it's my imagination of what I think is going to happen. That's really where the toughness is. Because, in essence, I am responsible for my own darkness, for the darkness that I'm in. A point. Somebody offers you tickets to a monster truck showcase at the Cow Palace. And you go, I don't know, but I'm going to take these tickets anyway. And so you show up at the monster truck rally, and there's fumes, and it's just loud and obnoxious. And you look around at the crowd, and everyone's just enjoying themselves and throwing popcorn and drinking beer, and they're having a great time. And you're going, what's wrong with me? I'm just not enjoying it. I don't get it. So let's look at this. Some people are really enjoying these circumstances. Loud, obnoxious, beer drinking, having a great time. And what I'd prefer to be doing is to be anything else but this. This is ridiculous. Get me out of here. So is it the circumstances and your relationship to monster truck rallies, or is it the monster trucks that are doing it? Because apparently those monster trucks are really pleasing everybody else, but not you. So I want to point out, time and time again, we forget that it's their fault that's causing my suffering. It's them. It's the person in charge. It's the person that elected the person in charge. It's those people that's causing my suffering. Or is it my relationship, and is it a call for me to look a little deeper? Not to shame myself, but just to look a little deeper. I've learned a lot from my cat. My cat loves darkness. Most animals aren't afraid of the dark. In fact, the little small ones that are food for other animals love the darkness. It's easier to hide. And they're very well adapted. Well, my cat, he's a tomcat named Bob. And Bob has these huge ears and huge whiskers and a huge tail. And all of that are his sensory organs to get through the dark. So I open the door to the underneath the house where he loves to play, totally pitch dark, and he just goes right on in there. So if we notice what Bob does, Bob is cautious, curious, but continues to move around and explore. I'm learning a lot from Bob. I'm cautious, curious, but I continually move around, even when I can't see. Because there are times when Bob can't see, it's too dark, but he can feel with his whiskers and with his tail. Am I getting into a small space, a big space? He uses his nose a lot. He's using everything. We've forgotten in some ways to use everything that we've been given, all of our senses. And the sense that we forget about is feeling. What does it feel like? And that's really, really important, because we rely on this we rely constantly on our thoughts to inform us. And have your thoughts ever been inaccurate? Once. Twice maybe. But as you know, oftentimes our thoughts can't be trusted. They just can't. So maybe it's time to do what Bob does, is he stops and gets curious. And when he can't see, he feels. So for us, and talking about how we are moving through darkness, the darkness that, in a sense, we create for ourselves. When we stop and we feel and ask, am I okay now, in this moment? I'm just asking yourself, am I okay right now? Almost always is a yes. Even in pain, well, I can move the rest. I can't move my leg, but I can move the rest of me. I guess I'm sort of okay. For me, it's never been as bad as I thought. And so, there is no enemy here, but there is something to wake up within us. And that's what this talk is really going to be about, is how do we wake up that which is there and that which guides us? We think it's our thoughts, we think it's our thinking. But when we're quiet and there are no thoughts, we're still able to move, we're still able to see and do everything else, and we can do it without thought. John can play the guitar without thinking. The guitar can play John at times, and he won't know what's coming next. Yeah, and he's nodding his... Sometimes the words come that way too. And we can live a beautiful life, in a sense, without thought. And so, perhaps in our awakening process, we start moving from our reliance on thinking to more of a reliance on feeling. And that's that movement they talk, the big step in awakening is moving from here to here. Because when I ask you, well, where do you feel things? Point to it. Put your hand there. Invariably, everyone will put their hand here. This sense of feeling. So, Ram Dass talks about this story where a friend of his, this is in the 70s, this is before hospice was a thing. And there was this woman, the friend asked Ram Dass to go sit with her mother who was dying a horribly painful death from cancer. And Ram Dass agreed, and the woman said, but I'll tell you, she is a piece of work. She is so angry, and so I'm just warning you. So Ram Dass walks in with his big bushy fro, ponytail, white robes, big beads, walks in, hi. And she says, get the hell out of here. And he says, okay, but I'm coming back tomorrow, so be prepared. He comes back tomorrow. And she says, what are you doing back here? And she's angry. And he says, well, your daughter has asked me to look in on you, to check on you. That's all I'm doing. I'm just asking you, how are you doing? I'm doing horrible. This is terrible. And so she starts letting it out. All of the fight. And for the next 3 weeks, he comes and listens to this blah, coming out as she starts to unload all of the baggage and everything that she'd been fighting against, not knowing that she's created this world for herself. But as she lets this all out, it's like this balloon starts to go and get smaller and smaller and smaller. And about a week before she died, Ram Dass comes in. And he is so surprised. It's like, what happened to you? And she's smiling. She's sitting up in bed. She's smiling. She's turned into the Buddha. And he said, I don't know what's happened, but I love it. And as he noticed that nurses were coming in just to be around her, there was something that was so alive and radiant about this woman who weeks before was intolerable, was so vicious. So what happened? And as the woman explained, she said, I couldn't take it anymore. I gave up. I gave it up. And this is a story that really sticks with me because it's true in my life when I've been in tough times. When I give up and turn it over, I can't go on. I can't go on. Help. And when we sincerely ask for help, I don't believe in God, but I believe in angels. I believe that there is help that comes. I have no idea how it works. I don't need to know how my cell phone works. I know that it works. And so when I sincerely ask, something happens. And what this woman did is she gave up and says, I turn it over. I let go. And she said the most amazing thing happens is my whole body just shook. And here I am, and I'm at peace. And whatever happens, I'm fine with it. I truly am fine with it. And so, what Ram Dass, and the point he makes out of the story is that do we learn on our sunshiny days, or do we learn from our suffering? And if it wasn't for the amount of pain and for the amount of suffering, from the amount of what was going on, would she have been pushed to that point of let go, of completely releasing control over her life, just letting it all go? I surrender completely. And Ram Dass said, if you were to ask me at the beginning when I met her, if I could take away her pain, I would have done it. But now, looking at what has happened, I would not take away her pain. I would have left her with her pain. I would have held her hand, but I would not have taken her pain away. Because oftentimes it is that pain, which is the heat that boils the water, that turns to steam, that we fly away. So, a friend of mine, Gary Stein, wrote this book. It's probably the best spiritual book, but he would never call it spiritual. He's a psychologist, and I love him. And he says, peace and well-being are what you bring to the world, not what you get from the world. Your happiness is what you bring to the world, not what you get from the world. See, it just seems like it's just backwards. When we expect peace to be delivered to us from having the right experience, the right thoughts, being with the right person, we're shutting ourselves out from our inner core. Stop looking for peace. You already are it. Sounds pretty spiritual to me. So, finding light in the darkness. When you're in dark places, when I'm in dark places, I need to take my cues from Bob, the cat. Now, I'm going to finish with, I've got to tell you about Susan, a friend of mine, and she is a light. And she is so genuine, so genuine. She just shows up and it's like, okay, she's here. I mean, she just radiates that confidence and no nonsense, and she knows how to listen and she knows how to ask the tough questions. She's one of those special, genuine people. Well, another good friend of ours, this is a couple of weeks ago, she has cancer, throat surgery is coming. Her partner is really frightened. They're both frightened, Allison and Chantal. And they're going to the hospital, and they're at the hospital. And who should show up at 9 o'clock in the morning for her 10 o'clock surgery but Susan? Susan walks in and says, "Hey, what's happening? What's going on?" And they say, "Well, we're pretty freaked out." And then Susan just, ratchets it back and just goes into this presence and listening mode. And they talk about their fears of the surgery and what would happen if the surgery doesn't go well, if she loses her voice because they're going through the vocal cord area, and on and on and on, and all the fears come out. And Susan just listens in this genuine way that you really get that she's listening. Perhaps the biggest gift we can give to another is our quality of listening. And so she was there for almost an hour, and then they wheeled in Allison, and they did a quick prayer, and off they went. And everyone was uplifted as a result. Everyone. And see, that's the power when we bring the light, as Susan brought the light, her generosity, she showed up. And when we bring the light, 90% of it is showing up, just being here. Here, I'm here, what's up? How can I help? What can I do? Can I bring beautiful flowers, especially an arrangement like that? Can I put out the food? Can I bring the video equipment? Can I do a fabulous job up here holding the whole space for the service, as Jennifer does? And then there's this guy over here who creates a mood. When we show up in our genuine self, something genuine happens. We're touched. Not necessarily by the words, but by the feeling. How do we feel? And that's what's important. And I'll tell you how to recognize the genuine, and this is a story about the Dalai Lama. And he was giving a talk in Madison Square Garden. Big deal. Place is full. And they've got him like a god all set up. And he's a humble guy. And so he's walking in on these pedals, and he's sort of kicking the pedals and going, "Whoa, look at all this." And it's a red carpet and the thrones up there with big cushions and all these stairs. And he makes his way up and turns around and sits down in the cushion. And he feels a bounce. And this expression, and he's on a teleprompter, so everybody can see his expression. He's surprised. Gives it another bounce, and then he starts to bounce. And it's the same reaction. Everybody just cracks up. This is the genuine. This is somebody that knows how to cry. This is somebody that's moved by the laughter of children. This is somebody that has an open heart. And when we follow examples like that, we know because we recognize the genuine. You can feel genuine. And that's all that we're looking for, is to commune with the genuine. And the genuine recognizes the genuine within each of us. And so the questions are, and we'll explore this in the workshop, is how can we be more available to the genuine that is within us, that's always there? You know, there's a way of protecting ourselves. I get it, it's survival. But not all the time do we have that balance where we can take that down. And so I'm just going to close by having us put our hands on our hearts, or just crossing our hands like this. And we're going to do an affirmation. And this is an affirmation to yourself and to all of us. And just repeat after me. Divine love flows through me.
Divine love flows through me.
Divine love through... Oh, let's open our arms now to everyone around us. Divine love flows through us. Divine love flows through us. Again, then, I am joy-filled and grateful.
I am joy-filled and grateful.
And so it is. No.